Hello friends, it is Link the Gulf Coast Gardener. Today is Monday, July the 28th. We're back in the gardens and the native plants are doing really well. Not only are they surviving, they are actually thriving. So I thought I'd show you 12 or 13 plants that require little maintenance and survive right through the hottest part of the summer. And one of them is this beautiful prairie verbena. So let's get started. Starting on the east side of the house, I have an absolute showcase of native plants. These are salvias, and this first large patch you see are the native Texas red salvia called scarlet sage, and look how beautiful these flowers are. The hummingbirds love them, the pollinators love them, and they are incredibly self-sufficient. All I really do to this patch is mulch it in because they shade the ground to the point where there really aren't any weeds in there. So it's very easy to take care of this garden. I come through with hedge clippers and I trim off the flowers every so often. That's what I did yesterday. You can see I kind of just went right through here and trimmed all these plants up. They'll bounce back in no time. And the great thing about salvia is that it just self-seeds like crazy. Like this plant is from just seeds dropping on the ground. I pull up as many plants as I grow, if not more, just to keep them kind of thinned out. But once they get established, you will have this giant patch of drought-tolerant native plants that just keep on growing. And next door, I've got more salvia now. Technically, this isn't a native. It's a cultivar of the scarlet sage. It is called coral nymph. I just love these little pinkish coral flowers. They are so pretty, and the plants are a little bit different. They have a slightly different leaf shape, so it gives a little bit of contrast between these two patches. But my goodness, you get a giant patch of salvia established like this, there's really almost no maintenance at all. All I mowed yesterday, and then I spread some grass clippings around here. That's really all I did to this patch, and I haven't been to the beach in over 2 weeks, so very self-sufficient. And you can see where all of these plants have self-seeded as well. I had a couple of coneflowers in here that didn't do very well, but the salvia is just taking over and filling in. And look back there. Look how pretty those are. These are Turk's Cap. I picked these up at a native plant sale, and they do really well. They can grow in full shade, but they also don't mind sun at all. I see them growing in the full sun all around New Braunfels. And look at these flowers. How pretty is that? So interesting, so easy to grow. These are spreading back here as well, doing really well in this spot. So they get full morning sun and then they get some afternoon shade. So a really nice spot to grow Turk's Cap. And back here, that's a honeysuckle that it doesn't really have anything to grow on. I need to get something so it'll grow up this post. Right now, it's just kind of sitting there. I just haven't had time to deal with it, but it's doing really well. It's trying to grow, but I just need to give it some more support. And over here, these are Coreopsis. These are Plains Coreopsis. I love growing these guys. I started these from seeds a couple of years ago in a seed mix, and then I transplanted them. And these things have been flowering all summer. I just cut these back a little bit yesterday as well. But the plants are super tough. The leaves are tough. They're lush and green. They've been lush and green basically year-round for me. And look how pretty these plants are. They've been flowering like crazy, and they will continue to flower. If you deadhead your Coreopsis, they will continue to make flowers. They're also really easy to transplant. So if you need to move them around, they are tough as nails. Planted on the back side of the compost bins, I have some gorgeous seaside goldenrod. These things are almost as tall as I am, almost 6 feet tall. The plants are absolutely beautiful. I bought these also at the native plant sale. I think I had 3 of them, and they were basically sticks in a bucket. And the fact that they've grown so quickly, so fast is quite amazing. They are about ready to flower. I imagine the next couple of weeks we'll have all kinds of flowers on these goldenrods. And this is one of the best things you can grow for the pollinators. They bloom late in the summer and into the fall, and they're just a fantastic kind of later season source of nectar for the bees and the butterflies. Everyone loves goldenrod. And this is called seaside goldenrod, so my hope is that it is going to be more tolerant to the salt. If we ever get a saltwater flood, fingers are crossed that it will survive that. The salt air is no big deal, as we can see, but hopefully it'll survive a flood too the next time the yard floods. And over here, this is passion flower vine. Now I understand this is, someone pointed out on one of my videos, this is the non-native version of the passion flower vine. This has these gorgeous white flowers. It's the host plant for the Gulf fritillary butterfly, and we have those all the time here. I saw my first one here yesterday, so really excited. This thing will eventually be covered with caterpillars, potentially will wipe out all the foliage, and then I will have a ton of Gulf fritillary butterflies. Now I do have a couple of the native ones in my raised bed over here, so when I rebuild these compost bins, I'm gonna pull this one out and I'm gonna replace it with the native passion flower vine, Passiflora incarnata, if I'm not mistaken. And here's something else. Now this isn't a native plant. This is actually the remnants of a hollyhock bush that I had over here. I grow a lot of hollyhocks, absolutely love the flowers, but really my favorite thing to do is to leave these stems in place after the flowers are done, because the local native bees and wasps, can I get focused? They use the empty stems to lay eggs and build nests. So they will lay an egg, they will plug it up with either mud or dirt or plant material, depending on the bee. The mason bees use mud, and then the leafcutter bees will use plant material. And you can see this is completely plugged up. Back here, there's another one. That is a complete nest of solitary bees or wasps that are completely non-aggressive. They are the best pollinators you can possibly have in your garden. And the wasps keep the worms under control. So if you have a lot of solitary wasps, again, not aggressive at all, they're really cute, and they take care of the tomato hornworms and all the other pests that can sometimes devastate your garden. So leave those plant stems in place and create homes for the native bees and wasps. Remember how I said those scarlet sage Texas native red salvias pop up everywhere? Well, they really pop up everywhere. This is over in the mulched in paths of my raised gardens. And look at these two beautiful guys. So I just let them flower, why not? Beautiful plants, volunteer plants make me happy. And these are so easy to transplant as well. So in the fall, if I need to clean up this pathway, I'll just dig these up and move them to another place or put them in a container, no problem. I just mentioned the native passion flower vine, and I actually do have two of the Texas natives, the Passiflora incarnata, and that's what these guys are. I have a neighbor, Richard, that gave me a couple of plants, and these guys are also tough as nails. They were in containers that I wasn't taking care of because we weren't in town. They were dried up, they looked terrible a couple of weeks ago. So I popped them out, trimmed them up, dropped them in this raised bed as just a kind of a placeholder. So I'm gonna leave them here until I'm ready to transplant them into the yard, probably by the compost bins when I rebuild them. But look how pretty these plants are. So I'll have native passion flower vine starting very soon. This is one of my favorite spots in the garden. I love to have coffee here in the morning and smell the basil or whatever herbs I have growing. And I've also got a front row seat to this gorgeous row of native plants. And the first thing you see, this is side oats grama. This is a Texas native grass. It's actually the state grass of Texas. And look at that. Not only does it have all these seed heads on there, it's got these pretty little flowers on there as well. I just noticed those. How cool is that? But anyway, having plants like this is nature's own bird feeder. Birds love these seeds, so it's better than having a store-bought bird feeder because you don't have to do anything. You just let the plants grow, and they feed the birds. It also provides nesting materials. It provides cover for the various critters like the bunnies that run around in the yard. And it's also just simply beautiful. Just love these grasses. So side oats grama. And down here you might recognize this. This is another one of those lance leaf coreopsis. I transplanted these, I don't know, a year or so ago, and just look how perfect they are. I cut back all the flowers because they kind of got burned up, but you can see how pretty they are. Here's a nice looking flower. When you deadhead these plants, they just keep on making flowers. These have been flowering for months. And when I say deadhead, I just mean come through here and like clip off the spent flower. Now you can also leave those on and they will start to reseed themselves. So it's up to you. I do a bunch of both. I'll deadhead the flowers, but then I'll also let a lot of them just go to seed. But really love lance leaf coreopsis. And there's one other native actually in this raised bed I want to show you. This is a Monarda. This is Monarda citriodora, also known as lemon mint. It's a little bit past its prime, as you can tell, but you can just see how unusual these flowers are. They are so pretty. The pollinators love any type of Monarda. I think lemon mint might be my favorite one right now. I got these seeds from Johnny's Selected Seeds. They start really easily from seed. I had probably 100 plants this year, and I did sell all of them, and I had maybe one or two extra, so I dropped one in the garden here. I'm gonna grow a whole bunch more of these next year. So if you like Monarda, which the pollinators absolutely love, they're super easy to start from seed. On the west side of the house, we have more native plants, starting with mistflower. I've had a patch of mistflower growing here for, gosh, 4 or 5 years. It's survived floods, it's survived freezes. It's really hard to kill this stuff. Now, this whole patch used to be mistflower. It got trampled because we were doing some work on the house, but it's already coming back. And look how lush and green in the hottest part of the summer, and this will spread and cover this entire patch. I could also move some around. It transplants really easily. And then over here, we've got, this is actually another one of those native red salvias, the scarlet sage. But what I'm really excited about are these plants in the back. This is the Texas native hibiscus called halberd leaf hibiscus. And I'm sure it gets its name from the shape of the leaves. Look at that, it's shaped just like a halberd. But look, it is flowering. I could not be happier. I wonder if I can get a good shot of that flower down there. Look how pretty these flowers are. They only last for 1 day and then they drop off. And as you can see, there's a bloom that was open yesterday. It already dropped off, but there are blooms all over these plants. And then look, this one's dried up. I'll have seeds. Try to figure out how to get some of these plants started from seed as well. Now these will grow 6 feet tall, maybe 6 feet wide. I've got 2 plants in here, obviously too close together. I'll dig the small one up in the fall and I will transplant it to another location. But imagine how gorgeous that is going to be. A 6 foot tall, 6 foot wide Texas native hibiscus, halberd leaf hibiscus. Then over here, more native plants. This is frog fruit, Phylla, Phylla nautiflora, if I'm not mistaken. A gorgeous flowering ground cover, super tough as well. This grows all over New Braunfels. It'll grow practically in concrete. There's a big patch of it near our house, and it's basically growing in rocks. It's just crazy how tough this stuff is. Flowers profusely. You really can't see any flowers on here. It's got these little dainty purple flowers, but this will spread out and cover this whole area, and it'll just be absolutely beautiful. Also on the west side of the house in full sun, I have this large raised bed, and I direct seeded a mix called Be Happy Mix from Native American Seeds. I direct seeded it in the fall of 2024, November 12th, if I'm not mistaken. And then I let the plants get established. I watered them, I kept them weeded, and I ended up with the most gorgeous flower garden of native plants that I'd ever grown before, and it was so easy. So on this end, we have more of those lance leaf coreopsis. Look how beautiful these plants are. So I've got them growing on the east side of the house, on the west side of the house. I've got some of them growing in New Braunfels as well. They are a super hardy plant, beautiful lush green foliage, flower like crazy. The pollinators love them. They're also really easy to transplant if you want to move them around. Now this is one of the plants that got me started into gardening. This is mealy cup sage or mealy blue sage. This is the native blue salvia, and it is simply beautiful. Look how nice this is. Now there are a whole lot of cultivars based on Salvia farnesea, the mealy blue sage. Here's one right over here. This is Henry Duelberg salvia. You can see it's a lot taller, just covered in pollinators and bees. The eastern carpenter bees just love salvias, and look how pretty they are. But if you only want to grow the native, that's what this guy is. Mealy blue sage or mealy cup sage. Lush, green, beautiful in the hottest part of the summer. More of the lance leaf coreopsis, more of the mealy blue sage, and here's a pretty specimen. This is a Rudbeckia, a black-eyed Susan, and I don't always have success growing black-eyed Susans, but this plant is really just perfect. These flowers are gorgeous, the plant is lush and healthy, and I love growing black-eyed Susan. Now this tall plant, this is a standing cypress. This is also part of the mix, and look how pretty these flowers are. These tubular red flowers are hummingbird magnets. They absolutely love these types of flowers. And this is just a really pretty, unusual plant. I'm going to buy a standalone packet of seeds of this standing cypress. I want to have a lot more of this growing next year. But of all the plants and flowers that I've grown in this mix, I think prairie verbena has been the biggest discovery for me. Look at these beautiful purple flowers, this lush green foliage. This has been blooming since March. This was the first flower to start blooming, and here we are in the heat of July. It is still going strong, and it's going to bloom all the way through October. So my goodness, if you only wanted to plant one thing in a big raised bed that would be green and lush and flower basically half the year, Prairie Verbena would be a good choice. I wish I could find just the standalone seed. It's only part of this mix, but I got to find some seed. I'd love to start more of these individual plants. Maybe I can propagate some from cuttings. Maybe it'll self-seed as well. First time I've grown it, but absolutely in love with Prairie Verbena. It's also the host plant for several different butterflies, including the common Buckeye butterfly, which is widespread across the country, just like this plant. So get a patch of this established, and you might create your own local colony of Buckeye butterflies, which are really pretty. More of the verbena. You can see even where some of the other plants have dried up and died or been cut back, the verbena is still going strong. More of the verbena. Look how pretty it is with the coreopsis growing right in the middle of it. Wow, look at that. My goodness, this whole patch filled with verbena would be stunning. And down on the end, I've got another example of that standing cypress. Look at these pretty red flowers, this gorgeous foliage. How nice is that? Never even heard of standing cypress. I had to identify it when it started blooming and then double check that it was in the mix, and sure enough it was. Now this, you might recognize this. This is a mist flower. I have a big patch of it behind me, but this is just a volunteer. These things pop up all over the place, and there's a good look at the flowers. They're purple and wispy and beautiful, and when these are in bloom, I think it's probably the butterfly's favorite plant. So these fill in empty spaces, they spread, they're kind of aggressive. They pop up in lots of different places, but I absolutely love mist flower. They're really easy to transplant if you get some in a place that you don't want them. So keep in mind, I planted this entire raised bed November 12th, 2024, and I've had flowers starting in March, and it's still going strong in the heat of the summer. So direct seeding native plants in the fall, as well as just annual flowers if you want to get started that way. There are certain cool weather flowers that do really well, started in the fall, and they will bloom super early in the spring and summer. So think about getting those native plants in place in the fall, and you might have a gorgeous bed of flowers just like this. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.